All right. Welcome to Rich Conversations. This is another hometown edition. We are back in my barn, and we are joined by the lovely Kallie Jo Coates. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
So you're on a farm. You have a barn. How does this barn compare to yours?
They're very, very similar. We were talking earlier a little bit. I watched a pigeon fly through, and I feel like that's kind of a thing of a barn, like a pigeon, these couple pigeons that just live here, and even just birds in general. But in terms of like the old structure and all the work that it went to make a barn is so prevalent and easy to see. It's so cool.
Those pigeons, though, they are like the bane of my existence.
Yes.
I mean, just look. They make such a mess.
That's what we have, two of them, and they are so
Just
noisy.
two? I feel like we have just like it's
revolving door.
Yeah, it's like a resort for pigeons. They just come in, invite all their friends.
Yep. And they find all the cracks to fly into, which is...
That's what's so tough about it. Like we have, I don't know if you can see right here. I suppose that's open.
The one door up top there.
So maybe that's why they're getting in.
Yeah.
But over there we have like a caged entry. Then there's like up at the top. But then they can come through the bottom too. And
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they get in anyway. Like we have just one little tiny like hole in the barn. Like and they just swipe right in. But they're funny creatures.
Yeah.
But it's kind of fun. I mean, it's one of those things that you walk in and you see it and you're like, this is home. Like this is what I'm used to.
So do you know the year that your barn was built?
I don't know the exact year. They've thrown out the late 1800s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's our property around that time, and just slowly added on here and there.
Yeah.
But I believe the roof was redone like the mid 1900s, so like 1950s.
Okay.
And so that was kind of what saved the barn, because you can even see in some old pictures it was really going downhill, but they kind of revived it and brought it back, and that's cool.
What do you think about barns today and what they the purposes they're used for? The only barns I really know are this one right here, that's pretty old. Mm-hmm. And then new ones that people put up, and then it's just like fancy.
Yeah. That's what I love, old barns, because like I said, it goes back to like you can see the craftsmanship that really went into it. New barns are more fancy pole sheds that people use. Old barns aren't necessarily used for your livestock so much anymore, just because they're a little bit, the way they're built, like some modern equipment can't actually make it in there. So to clean things, make it all nice and useful. But they're still used for hay lofts. I know a lot of people that put hay and straw in their barns. But we also have the modern kind of more event venues, and people are fixing up barns and making them into those. I've seen Airbnbs, and I think those are kind of neat. That they literally put in walls into the same barn and that. But
a lot of work would have to go into this to make it an Airbnb. Depends on the clientele.
Yeah, because I know someone that they started in a barn venue because they had an old barn on the property, and they were getting married. And they were like, well, we'll get it fixed up enough. Well, everyone just loved the charm of the barn so much that they started saying, well, could I rent that? And they went, there's no air conditioning. There's barely any light. Like, what do you want out of this? And so then they slowly rented it out and kept fixing here and there and making it better and better. And it's really cool now. I mean, they put a lot of work into it, but...
How many barn weddings have you gone to?
I think I'm up to like 4 or 5 now.
Oh, okay. I think I've been to 2, I want to say.
Okay.
Yeah.
So not as many.
Not as many.
That's all right.
They do make it quite cute, and the charm. It does have a charm.
It does, and it does take a special person. I feel like a special person that can accept that charm and really pull it out, even in their decorations and everything they do in the day. Because if you try to upscale a barn too much, sometimes it becomes a little kitschy in the decorations and everything.
The kitschiness. Yeah, I get that.
But
I might have been to actually a few more, maybe like 3. This one I went to in Illinois, in like rural Illinois. This barn was probably like 3 times this size.
Oh, okay.
And they had like a whole loft, and they had like old cars in the loft.
That's awesome.
And just like a whole big thing.
I think I might know which barn you're talking about.
I'm not sure.
Like Barnacopia. I don't know if you've heard of that. And it's got old cars and like John Deere memorabilia. Maybe? No.
Maybe.
No.
There's definitely memorabilia.
Yeah.
That's kind of like the dream barn.
Yeah.
That's
like we've actually a friend of mine that I went to college with, his family was friends with the family that made Barnacopia. I don't know if that's the same barn you're talking about, but that's a 3-story barn and like has so much memorabilia. And so when we went, they helped build some of that and do things. So we went and saw it and had like this one-on-one tour, and it was so cool that how they went about building the barn and putting all of their mementos they had gotten through the years so that they had a place to store them.
Yeah, it has a charm to it, and that's like why I got like this little setup. I was telling you earlier, like I got this makeshift studio in the barn. You know, it's February. We're recording this in February, and it's it's not warm.
No, it's not as bad as I was expecting, though.
Like, it's not too bad. But yeah, the cuteness of it, and it's cool. Well, some people have memorabilia. We just have like old license plates from my dad. We got an old milk jug. I don't even think you can see it in the shot. And then we have a globe that's basically being held up by the wall. It has to like lean against the wall to stand. But yeah, there's like a charm to it.
Yeah, there is.
That's
a charm.
what I'm trying to capture with the video, the podcast. So we'll see, but it's a work in progress. I figure I could have something like this, so then when I want to talk to Wisconsin guests, they can come to my studio in the barn.
In the barn. But have its own little name, in the barn.
Yeah. So, but we both grew up in the town of Raymond. How would you describe Raymond?
It's a cute town, honestly. I don't know if cute's the right word. Maybe I shouldn't use that, but it's a close-knit community where families date back generations and can kind of come together and be a great asset to one another, and they really care about each other. That's how I look at Raymond.
How would you describe it physically to people that are unaware of it?
Yeah, so we are an odd town that we're right on the cusp of urbanness, I feel like. We're right in between Chicago and Milwaukee, about 30 miles from Chicago, 60 miles?
We're about like, depends where you start it. It's like 70.
Okay.
65.
Depends
From like
on
where I get off, it's like 76 miles, I think, end trip. Yeah. Anyways, it's like an hour and a half if you're driving.
Yeah. And we're right on the
highway. Hour 15 if you're taking the 94.
Yeah.
And then we're like 30 minutes from Milwaukee.
Yeah, it's just a hop and a skip. But you can literally, the interstate runs right on the east side of the town, so you can just hop off into the town and do your thing. There's not tons of there's no box stores in Raymond. I don't know. It's all kind of more small business.
Fireworks stores. We're known for our fireworks.
Yes. 2 fireworks stores.
2 fireworks stores.
And then a couple construction-esque. We now have a internet service. Evergent moved in town by the grade school area.
See, I didn't know about that. Like, so I live in Chicago, but, I come back once a month, once every 6 weeks or so. Those watching might understand this, or I've probably said this before, but like I have this life philosophy that humans are either meant to be in nature or with each other. So I get both of those fulfilled by living in Chicago, and then also coming back and like taking a break mentally and just being out where I can just smell the dirt, be in the fields, be on the farm, go to the pond, take a walk in the woods. And I need kind of both of those. And, but I have noticed like coming back though, there's more development, or there's more houses, and it kind of like my internal system is like getting thrown off every time I come back, and I'm like, this isn't
normal. Yeah.
Yeah, well, like change happens, but it's I don't know if this is the change I necessarily want. So yeah, I've had conversations with other people, and I think that's how we kind of got in touch, more so, because I don't like when I come back, I don't really necessarily, I just kind of hang out on the farm and do my thing.
Nature. Yeah.
But we've met a few times, and yeah, what's your perspective on it?
Yeah, so I actually grew up technically in the town over, because I was in North Cape area, but we had family ties always to Raymond,
Right,
so
yeah.
we came here all the time, and like Raymond 4-H was our thing, and my family owns a business here in
This
Raymond.
is like a half mile.
Yeah, it's
away.
not much different. So it was always Raymond was the town. So when we bought our house in Raymond, and watching things start to build up, it's kind of sad, and it's kind of, you just wonder, you know, you talk about the loss of farmland, and you talk about how there's no farmers that want to take over. Well, I wouldn't say that's necessarily the case, especially to people I've talked to in the area. You know, they want to take it over. However, farmland is less valuable than developmental land.
Yeah.
So if you can sell your farmland for more money, that's the option people are taking at this time. So it's hard to see. It's understandable to some extent, but for me, I get really sad watching it all. Kind of a house pop up here, or subdivision over there. You know, just little by little, because you just start losing that charm and character of the town.
It is. It starts to look like every other place.
Yeah.
And places I don't like spending time in. So it's like, to me, and Kallie Jo and I have talked about this, and it's like, it's almost like this point of time, or you sense this, you have this sense of like, well, we should, if we don't like it, if I don't like it, or if you don't like it, or if we don't like it, we should get together and discuss it, right? Because otherwise it'll just happen.
Just without any input.
By physics or gravity, it will just happen. And so in order, so it's like a point of inflection for a community to come together and say, like, who are we? Who were we? Who are we now? What do we want to become? Who do we want to become? And take steps to take initiative to do that, right?
Yeah, and start having those conversations and
Yeah.
be open about it. I think there's a lot of people who internally feel it, where they don't express their concerns, and then there's also the people who do express their concerns but might not know how to get to the same people with the same like-minded concerns.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's nothing is necessarily good or bad. It's just a matter of defining as a community, like, what do we want?
Yeah.
You know? Because then once you decide that, and you get more people sharing the same values, then that's when you can start to make headway and make progress.
Make change.
Yeah, so we've been in like preliminary discussions, you and I, of like, okay, well we're
on the same page, yeah.
Who else is on the same page? And so we're actively, you know, taking steps to try to find other people and communicate and organize like that. So.
Yeah, and it's a slow process, but it's definitely a process that needs to happen, and so, or that's how I see it.
If you want to make progress, or if you want something, you have to try, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise,
That's
it will not happen.
Yes.
This is very, very simple in life, right? If you want something, no one's just going to give it to you, especially if they don't know, right? You have to
make known, and you have to work at it.
Yeah, you have to put forth the effort. So that's here. I love Raymond.
Yeah, it is. It's a nice town. It really is.
It is. And I don't want it to become something generic, like like I noticed with other areas.
It's too easy to fall into that. You know, it's easy to put up houses and do this and this and this and bring people, especially where we're located. If it weren't for where we're located, that's easy to me. What's more, but if you take the harder road and you really work at it and you keep the town the way, you know, like keep that character and you work at that, I think that's more important. And also
you can like benefit from staying true to who you are. Like in the long run, it's more lucrative is probably the wrong word, but like the more you are yourself, which is different from everybody else, the more you'll stand out.
Makes you special.
Makes you special, and everybody can benefit from it. So those are some of the things that we've been talking about off camera, stuff like that. It was quite beautiful. And now, so you're on a farm.
Yep.
How many animals do you have?
Well, right now we have just 7 feeder calves and 130 laying hens.
130. I was telling my friends this. I was like, I think she said 66.
That's what we started with. Well, so I wanted 6. That's what I wanted.
I knew there was like a 6 in there.
Yes, I wanted 6 because when I moved in with my husband, we were actually just in Caledonia, and the house we moved into didn't really have land or buildings or anything, and I was I need something for me to take care of because I grew up on a farm and I need that daily structure of chores at night, chores in the morning. Like,
interesting.
So I wanted 6 chickens so that I could take care of them in the morning and at night, which turned into, well, if you're going to get 6, you might as well get 60. So then we had a bigger coop, and it becomes more of than what I expected. And then we actually started selling the eggs, and it was like, oh, okay, now we need like 130, and I have another 50 coming in April.
Wow.
So it's a little bit more than I expected, and I laugh because I was never.
So now you really got some structure.
Yeah, we really have structure, morning and night. And I have to say I like the cattle more, so that's why we had to get the cattle in the mixture. But the chickens they've taken on a mind of the earth, like more to the operation than I ever expected.
So what's the daily? So you have 7 cattle and 130 hens.
Yes.
What is your daily? What
are chores?
What does your day look like?
So in the morning, it's always feeding and watering, making sure everything is taken care of for both the cattle and the chickens. And then during the day, I do about my regular business, working on different things. And then 4 o'clock is like my time, 4:30. If it hits 5 o'clock, I'm too late. But I go outside and then I feed them all again, make sure there's water, and then we collect all the eggs that later at night then too.
So how many eggs are you per day?
Well, right now we're down a little bit because it's cold out, and chickens are actually they lay based on the sunlight. So when the days get shorter, they lay less. When the days get longer, they lay more. So right now they are laying we're at like 70 to 80 a day. And then once it gets summertime, we should be back up to 100 or so a day.
Okay.
And then we do like monthly, we clean them out and do all the good things, but that doesn't have to happen every day, like making your bed or such. You know, it's a little different. But keeping up on that end. So it's not super time intensive. Honestly, I spend about an hour a day with them, but in terms of the structure is my big thing, because it's like every day I have to do this, and they depend on me because they can't do it themselves, which is a good feeling.
This is something people that didn't grow up in the country don't understand. Because, I'm in Chicago, and people are like, I just want to get away from everything. Just like live on a farm. Just have my own farm and raise animals. And I'm like, Are you sure? Are you sure about that? Because you have to be attentive to the animals every day, twice a day. It's a huge time commitment, and
the commitment is the big thing. Because like you can't just go out of town like you on a spur, and that's my husband didn't grow up on a farm, so that's the thing he's getting used to of like no, we want to go away for a weekend. Well, we need to have it lined up. Someone's taking care of them in the morning. Someone's there at night, and have that all figured out before we just jet off somewhere.
Yeah, it's like a logistical labyrinth.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I've run into in talking to people who also think they want to farm, and then they make it. They have their chickens for about 2 months. We've had people that they advertise their chickens, they want to get rid of them, and we're like, well, maybe we'll take on a couple more. Sometimes it's all dependent, but they've said like, this is too much work. I didn't realize all the work that went into it. And it's like, well, yeah, they're living creatures too. They need to be cared for correctly.
And this goes back to kind of the topic we were just discussing. It's like Raymond is this rural community, and you have people who are not from the area or the lifestyle that move in because they're attracted to, I want to be out in the open land. I want to, be in the countryside, until they'll start raising animals. And they build all these fences.
And they're nice fences too. Like they go all out.
These are like, oh, that fence is pretty nice. Yeah. But then after a while, they realize how much time it is. And then they get rid of them. And then now they got this fence that's up.
Yeah.
Because again, there's this like idea in the head of what something is, but then there's the reality of what it actually is as well.
Well, and I laugh because you go and play like games on your phone, like Farmville and things, and you're like, man, this is so easy. Like, I just go to collect all these things, and I just sell. Oh, I'm making money. I mean, farming is a lot more than that, especially like, so we talk about like the animals and what we have on our farm, but like, so my family farms more than just, they actually crop farm. And my husband works on a farm, and they do essentially soybeans and corn and wheat. And so you're now mixing in straw, and you're trying to keep everything going all at the same time. And most days in the summer, I'd say he's gone from like 7 to 9 at night. And it's a different lifestyle, and you get used to it. And he makes comments of, oh, I can't believe you can handle this. You're home alone a lot. I'm like, it is what it is, but you get people who've never been around that, and well, I don't want to have to give up this to be able to do that. And
it's trade-off.
And those games that you play do not show that at all. And even like you watch like TV shows about farming or things, it's like you don't see any of the struggles or anything. So you start to struggle, and you go, why are we doing this? Unless you have it ingrained in you that this is a really good thing, this is what you want to do. It's easy to say, oh, let's just go do something else and give this up.
And then time comes when egg prices are super high. And, well, not for me. Okay, elaborate on this, because people are like, there was this whole, I think they've come down a bit now, but.
Just a hair.
Explain the increase in egg prices.
Oh, there's a lot of things going into it, quite honestly. So what we really saw was the avian flu went through. I don't know if you saw headlines about that. And they had to, essentially, if a flock was found with that, they had to kill all the birds within that flock. So you had hundreds of thousands of birds getting killed off, and then now we have to replenish that stock. And it's not just that you buy chicks and they start laying eggs. It takes 6 to 7 months. I think it is 6. Might not be remembering that off the top of my head right, but it takes time to replenish that and get it going again. So we had that going on in the background. Well, now we also have with corn and soybeans and wheat and different things that you put into the feed, that has also been at record high prices right now. So your feed costs are also increasing considerably. And one thing we saw too is then all of a sudden with paper and packaging costs, our carton costs went up. They doubled essentially from what we were paying before. So it's all these little parts and pieces coming together to make it that there's less of a supply, and now we have more higher inputs to make that all work.
Yeah, people have been baffled by this. The egg prices.
I don't 100% blame them, because it was kind of like weird, and we've always just kind of kept our prices the same because our inputs are about the same, other than the egg cartons. And then it was slowly, people were calling me, "Did you see how much they are in the grocery store?" No, I don't look for eggs in the grocery store. I paid $7 today.
This is like a huge thing. This was such a major thing.
Yes, and I'm getting phone calls, and I'm like, okay.
So did you increase your prices, or?
We only went up $1 on our large eggs, and then we divide them. We do small and mediums, large and extra large, because different chickens lay different sized eggs.
Okay.
So I felt bad selling the smaller eggs at the regular cost. So we went up from $4 to $5 on our large, extra large, and from $2 to now we're up to $3.50 on our small mediums.
How would you describe the difference between your eggs, the taste of your eggs, and the quality of your eggs versus what you find in the grocery store?
So the biggest thing, and one of the biggest misconceptions, is that brown eggs are better. And that's not necessarily a fact. The egg color is really just dependent on the bird and the species, or the breed, essentially it is. But the biggest difference is the different feed that we're feeding. For us, we actually mix our own feed and know exactly what we're putting in. And mind you, like the bigger farms aren't necessarily putting anything bad in, but they have bigger batches. They're just doing things a little differently. But the biggest thing is from farm to counter, essentially. We can get it from our farm to the counter within a day, 2 days. A lot of these other places, I've heard time frames from like 20 days to a month and a half to get them to the grocery store and actually get them sold. So you have that time when the quality of the egg is slowly deteriorating over time.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest thing for us, at least. And we actually, and in our feed too, like I said, feed's different. For us, we actually started adding a marigold powder into it, and it makes the yolks yellower and a little more dense in nutrients, which is interesting. And we work with a nutritionist and things on that kind of stuff. But
that's the big difference, especially. It's the yolk.
Yes.
Like fresh eggs, it's like, oh, this is so bright. It's as
so
bright
yellow.
as the sun.
Yes. Yep. And that has all to do with all that kind of little things that add up to a lot.
And then in the store, it's like a faded yellow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's interesting. So then your family runs Harry Hansen's Meat.
Correct.
Which is a local like meat market.
Yeah, we
say?
Local meat market, and we also process livestock. So there's not many local processors left, actually, even in southeastern Wisconsin. I want to say there's about 4 or 5 of us left. So we work with local farmers, and they bring in livestock, and we process them from start to finish, and also sell direct to consumer through the retail store.
Best bacon. Best bacon.
I feel like I've been spoiled. I can't even eat other bacon. I'm not gonna lie.
we had it on my birthday. One of our Christmas gifts was some beef sticks and some bacon.
There you go.
From your place, and we had it. My birthday is December 27th,
okay.
So I usually stay in town until like then. I'm here for the holidays, and I go back to Chicago. And then so that morning we had our family over, nieces and nephews and everybody, and then we cooked up that bacon, and it was like, oh, that was good. Some of the best. Yeah,
well, and that also is different in processing too, of why it tastes different. Of like a lot of when you buy bacon at the grocery store, a lot of that is they're trying to produce so much to feed the quantity that they're using actually like an injected smoke versus like a true smokehouse, which is what we use.
Interesting.
Yes. So there's a little bit of science or little things going on in the back end on that. So, but
what are some other differences between like bigger operations compared to smaller operations in the quality of the food?
Yeah. So one thing that I always say is like, the quality of the animal is usually the same. There's a lot of things, like a lot of farmers are not doing bad things by any means. So like even large farms, when they're selling them to larger packers, and by packers, I mean meat processing facilities, there's nothing really wrong there. What we're seeing though is that those cuts of meat are being cut actually at those processing facilities and then sent to the grocery stores and things, and so they're losing that freshness to them as they're getting shipped from here to there, and they're not they're sitting in the container that then they're sold in, versus you just cut what we get in, or what we work with, is large primals, they're called. So large pieces of meat, and then we cut them into the smaller parts, and it's more fresh.
Okay.
They actually, a lot of larger packers, they do wet aging. So wet aging.
What is wet aging?
Wet aging is where they cryovac large pieces of meat and then let that age within the juices that are essentially made by that cut of meat. So it's wet. Whereas what we try to do, what we do when we process livestock is we let them hang so that they in a cooler for 2 weeks, so it dry ages it, and that just breaks down the meat in a different type of way.
Do you ever go to a steakhouse and like critique the steaks?
I actually don't. I usually get chicken or pork when I go to a steakhouse. Like I don't.
Really?
I avoid getting steaks. My biggest thing is that I like how I cook steaks better. Like that's my biggest thing.
Okay.
But I'll try some of my husband's here and there, and like I'll just say like, oh yep, this was good. This they cut right. Like this was, and he gets driven nuts by it. So I'm like, all right, never mind, we're done. I think my favorite story though is like my sister. She went out to lunch with some friends of hers, and they were all sitting down. They had all their steaks, and the one friend had ordered like a T-bone or something, and ended up getting a ribeye. Like it was just the wrong cut of meat completely. And like they asked the waitress like, "Are you sure this is the right?" Like I ordered a T-bone, and they're like, "Yeah, nope, that's a T-bone." And Rochelle, my sister, was just like, "No." No, this is so wrong. Like, you got a better cut. Well, it's not necessarily better. It's just a different cut of steak. Yeah. It was more expensive on the menu. Yeah. But, like, okay, yep.
Huh. Interesting. Do you have a garden?
We do, but it's there's a lot of better gardeners out there than us, I have to say. We end up actually going to, like, there's a fresh produce stand on the way, usually from the farm that my husband farms at, to our house, so it was way easier to grab stuff from there than my tomatoes. I don't know what I do wrong, but they just don't grow. It's really bad.
I feel like that's something I'm gonna get into. It's like gardening. I don't know when, but like, yeah, there's something charming about it.
It really is, and there's a lot of good things that come from it if you do it right. I feel like we did not do it right.
I've been really into basil lately.
Oh, yep.
We'll just have a garden of basil.
There you go. And that I think you can grow in like smaller pots and things like outside your window, all over the place.
I feel like the amount of work to go into like one of those small pots outside your window and stuff, especially in the city, just seems
mediocre.
Like just too much work.
Oh, that seems like too much work.
Or not that. It's too much work for what you get out.
Okay.
Too much input, not enough output.
Okay.
Whereas like in the store, then you can just get it.
And grab it and go.
Anyways. Did you take animals to the county fair?
Yes.
What animals did you take?
We had cattle and pigs. And one year I showed a turkey. But that was 1 year, no more.
So describe the process of taking cattle and pigs to the county fair. I used to take lambs. So like in this like cow yard, we would take lambs to the county fair.
Okay.
Describe the difference raising pigs and cattle.
So the cattle you actually get way sooner than the pigs.
Okay.
So like the calves that we were getting to show at the fair, we were getting in so the fair was July, and we were getting them the October, November before.
Okay.
So we had them for like 8 months, and had them the whole time. Cattle, to be able to take them to the fair, they have to be broke to lead. So essentially, you have to be able to put a halter on them, which is a rope that goes around their nose and head, and you can pull them around the. And so that was always the challenging part when you first got the calves, was making them understand that what you were doing was nice and they enjoyed it. And they did, because we spent a lot of time together once we got the halter thing figured out. Yeah. So we get the halter on and brush them, and I'd be out there every day brushing and this and that. And some wintertime I wasn't out as much as I maybe should have been. I still did all my chores the normal way. However, the whole thought of being out there for an hour petting my steer when it was cold out was not appealing to me. So I would wait until about April, May when it was getting warm. And then I spent an hour every day with them.
Okay.
Brushing them, just spending time walking them, doing all those kinds of things. On the flip side, pigs, those are probably closer to lambs, quite honestly. We were getting the pigs about March, April. Okay. I'd say March closer. And then we would have them for a shorter amount of time. They actually don't get led with halters. They get what we had at that time was a cane. And we would tell them where they had to go.
Yeah, tap them around.
Yeah, you'd tap them on the side of their cheek and say, I want you to go this way, I want you to go that way. And then they would just walk and do their thing. And those I didn't spend quite as much time with. It goes back to that. I like the cattle more than the other animals. But
did you ever have horses?
We had a pony growing up. But
a pony?
A pony, yeah.
Okay.
So a small horse, essentially.
Yeah. And then you said turkeys. What inspired the move to turkeys for a year?
My aunt was convinced I needed to show a turkey. And so she made sure I got my turkey, and we were raising this turkey, and I showed a turkey once, and that was enough for me for a turkey.
Why is that? What about turkeys?
They were just different. And I have to say that, so with the turkeys, you're only having them for 3-4 months. It's not long at all. And once we got them as little chicks and we raised them up, and then I got to the county fair, and you didn't spend as much time with them, and then you didn't actually lead them or do anything with them. Yeah. You just kind of waddled with them to the show ring, let them go out and do their thing, and then come back. And something about that was terrifying to me. What if this turkey gets loose while I'm waddling it to the show ring? Or what if something happens outside my control and I have no control over this turkey because it's a turkey? And that was the end of that career. I was too scared of the bird.
Yeah, turkeys are a different kind of creature. They'll be I'll see wild turkeys around here. Mm-hmm. Can they fly? Sometimes I think
they can get not super high in the air, but they can fly some. Yeah.
I'll see, sometimes I don't believe my eyes, and how the turkey will fly up into a tree.
Yep.
And I'm like, did that just happen?
Yep.
Oh man.
They're wild animals. They're turkeys. I mean.
What do you know the hunting laws? I don't think you can shoot them, or
they have a season, just like deer seasons and things. They've got a turkey season. I don't know anything more about them than that. We have a little herd of 6 turkeys that I see every year that come through our yard, and they kind of do their little thing and they waddle through.
These are big birds.
Yeah, they are. And they fly into trees. Yeah. You're just kind of okay, there they go.
It's something you're never really growing up, on TV or whatever. You're never really taught or shown that turkeys can do that. Mm-hmm. And then so when you do see it, it's a wild sight.
And I know for chickens, I don't know if it's same with turkeys, is our chickens can also fly. But we clip their wings when they're young, so that they can't actually fly. They can't make it off the ground, and so kind of trains them to never fly after that. So I don't know with some non-wild turkeys if that's what you do to train them not to fly, and that's why they don't fly. Okay. I don't know enough about the turkey industry. I'm not gonna lie, but they are special creatures. They scare me.
They're pretty terrifying. That was supposed to be they're kind of not attractive.
No.
That was supposed to be, I think, for the United States, it was going to be a turkey as kind of the symbol, but we went with bald eagle.
That's probably the better option.
I think Ben Franklin was arguing for the turkey. I don't know. I could be totally wrong, because they're very prevalent in America.
And that makes sense, but they're not very
majestic.
No. They're these big old clunky birds that scare me.
Yeah, I think it was a better move with the bald eagle.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Actually, there has been one circling around here. I don't know if you've gotten to see it.
I see a lot of hawks.
Okay. Yeah, we've had a bald eagle. It was actually across from our house, and then I was on Facebook, and there were people spotting this bald eagle.
Really?
And it's been flying from here to here to here, and I'm assuming it's the same one because I don't know of many bald eagles around this area.
They're not native to this area of the Midwest,
no.
Right? Or the Midwest at all?
Not that I know of. I don't think so.
Where are they usually found? Out west?
I think so.
Or
I don't know. I remember I
mountains?
when we were when I went to school in Platteville, Wisconsin, and there was actually quite a few along the Mississippi. They would have nests in there, so maybe more of like and that's a little more hilly terrain, so that kind of thing.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
I feel like bald eagles aren't interested in just flat land.
No.
It's too boring for them.
They're like, we need to go.
It's too boring for a lot of people too.
Go explore other things. Yeah. So,
okay, so you had mentioned the county fair.
Yeah.
Describe the county fair.
Yes.
Our county fair.
Our
Racine County Fair.
Racine County Fair. So Racine County Fair, it's actually a pretty large fair in the area. It's in Union Grove, and essentially it was started in Burlington. I want to say the first fair was in Burlington, and then it was to showcase agriculture, and then they moved it to Union Grove, and that's kind of where it has stayed. And they've built buildings, and youth. It's where youth and actually adults can show too. The youth show through youth organizations like 4-H, FFA, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, and they can bring pretty much any project anything under the sun that they can make, or that they can raise. So I've known people to show cattle, but I also know people who've shown their cats, and they get to exhibit that. And then we also have the open class, which is for adults to be able to showcase some of their things they're going. But it really is a community-focused event. So there's entertainment there between bands and a demo derby, and there's also things for kids, so it's more family friendly, where there's amusement rides and also petting zoos. And also,
don't forget the tractor pull.
Oh, the tractor pull, yes. The tractor pull is a big one. It brings in a lot of people. Yeah. And then I always, there's different days every day. There's a different theme and things that people come in for. And it's a nice community event, honestly. And it's a nice family-oriented community event so that you can bring their kids there and not feel scared or anything. Yeah.
As you've gotten older, have you been going to the county fair yearly as well? Same?
Yeah. Yep. I am a diehard county fair goer. So
did you ever run for like county fair?
The fairest of the fair. Yeah. I was the fairest of fair 2016.
2016.
Yes, that was a big deal. And
what happens when you're the fairest of the fair?
So as the fairest of the fair, you're essentially ambassador for the county fair.
Okay.
So you get to go out. The 5 days of the fair, you're there talking about all the things happening during the fair and encouraging people to really get involved with that. And then the rest of the year, you're going out and inviting people to the fair. You also get to run for state fairest, which is up in the Dells the first week of January. They hold for all county fairs to come in. So I think there's 38 county fairists, and they all come and you compete against each other for the title of the state fairest. Okay. And if you're the state fairest, you get to then be the official ambassador of the Wisconsin State Fair.
So then does that fairest of the fair go on and compete or?
No, it doesn't go any further than that. That's the top of the top.
Wisconsin State Fair.
Wisconsin State Fair. Yeah, and it's the nice thing is it's not a beauty pageant by any means. Yeah. There's a lot of things that go into it, like professionalism and just personality-wise. How can you talk to people? Are you good at that? So it's kind of fun to watch, but thankfully there's no talent involved because I would have definitely not made it past any further.
Yeah.
But they give out scholarships and things too, which is awesome for anyone who competes and who wins. I think it's like a $1,500 scholarship for the winner. And
oh, nice.
Yeah. So there's some perks to it. But
yeah, the fair, rural America. It's such a big, because it's not just our county fair, but there's fairs all over the state, but all over the country. It's definitely this Americana event. That happens every year around the country, and it's the same kind of stuff, I want to say.
Yeah, and it's kind of neat because the county fairs are essentially happening all year round, depending on where you're at. Because I've been down to county fairs, and that was in February was the Osceola County Fair down in Florida, and they had all the things going on. Yep, so it's just depending on where you're at, there can be different.
So what was that like?
It was actually very similar to ours, I have to say.
Really?
Yeah.
Down in Florida.
Down in Florida, and Osceola County it's either the same county as Disney, or it's the county
Orlando?
over. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So there was a lot of people that were like, well, this is, we don't have agriculture, but there were kids from all over showing, exhibiting livestock.
The same kind of livestock? Or do they got like gators and flamingos and stuff?
No, the same kind. I would have loved to see gators or something. I think that would be neat, but I didn't see any. But yeah, they had barns just like ours filled with livestock.
Really?
The pigs, cattle, chickens, all that. And then they also had the non-animal projects, and that's the neat thing that you get to participate in, even if you're not on a farm with livestock, is that you can take quilting or you can do photography, and they had plenty of that. The one thing they did have that we didn't have was a rodeo. They were very heavy in their rodeo and very excited about it.
In Florida?
In Florida, yeah.
Man, Florida is an interesting place.
It was very interesting.
They're such like an outlier. I feel like...
Yeah.
Something I would want to do in my lifetime is go to the Texas State Fair.
The State Fair of Texas, that one, in Dallas?
I don't know. I feel like it's in northern Texas, maybe.
Because they've got a couple state fairs. Like they're a weird state.
What's the one where they? That's another outlier for sure. More of an outlier than Florida. The one where it's like the weekend they play Oklahoma in college football. It's like the Red River rivalry, and that's kind of like the capstone of the state fair in a way.
I'd have to do more research on that, but that's interesting.
Yeah. Texas seems like it would have a huge state fair.
They have like 3 pretty much. I mean, they've got, and they're not necessarily all called state fairs. Like there's a State Fair of Texas, and then they've got Fort Worth Stockyard, like that's a whole nother show of sorts, and then so they've just got all these like all over depending on where you want to go, and it's kind of neat because since they are such a huge state, it does provide those kids to be able to go whichever one is closest to them versus like Wisconsin has just their one, and that's the state fair. Texas has a couple.
I imagine they definitely have rodeos.
Yes.
You'll see it on like obscure sports, like on like off hours of ESPN. They'll have rodeos. Mm-hmm. I think Houston is a big rodeo place.
Yes, Houston is. They've got the Houston Livestock and Rodeo. That's I think what it's called. Yeah. But I always think rodeos are neat. And some of the athletes that are in there, I follow them on Facebook and things, and they're just so down to earth. And
rodeo?
Yeah, in rodeo.
Interesting.
Yeah, and you read their things, and you're just like, wow, like your perspective on things is awesome for you being like making lots and lots of money off of a sport, but you would never guess that they were.
That's a dangerous sport.
It is a dangerous sport.
They're making some pretty decent money then?
I think so, from my understanding.
Yeah.
Decent money compared to me, I would say. But I always watched the barrel racers. I guess that's a little bit of a safer sport.
What's the barrel racers?
So barrel racing is where there's essentially three barrels, and you can do a clover pattern with a horse. It's very popular among women typically. So you run the course and you go as fast as you can around the barrels.
So you're horse racing?
Ish. You're on a horse.
Okay.
But it's only you. Like you're not in the ring with anyone else.
Okay.
And
so it's timed?
Timed.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. And then you run the course and you come back and it's wild.
Interesting.
I feel like it's a little bit safe. It's still not the safest thing because you have a live animal that you're dealing with, but it seems safer than like the PBR.
Than like riding on a bull?
Yeah.
Gee, I don't know.
Got a little bit extra there. I wonder why. But yeah.
Well, to kind of wrap up our conversation, what is something you're curious about recently? I always enjoy asking that question.
That's a really hard question, actually. We've been redoing our house.
Okay.
Our farm has an old farmhouse that was also built around the same time as our barn, and we've been redoing the wiring in the house. So I guess lately I've been really interested in the wire, like electricity wiring, and even like the history of some of the wiring has really been interesting, because you pull out this wire and they're like, oh yeah, that was used in the 40s, and there's so many things that people can just go, yeah, that was from that era. That's when they must have rewired last. So kind of the history along with the actual use of electricity has been interesting.
Have you've been doing like a project in your barn, right?
Yeah, we were doing a rewire project in there too. So we rewired the whole entire thing. I'm really glad the barn never burnt down. I'll just say that, based on what was previously in there, and the mice had taken their course and chewed through things, and so there was open electricity, just essentially, that we were finding here and there, and so we redid it all, and it's all safe now. But
our barn burnt down in 1991, so this is the different barn.
Okay.
But the barn on the actual farm burned down in 91. So that's when we stopped doing dairy.
Okay.
And we were just cash crops, and then we would have some animals as well. But do you keep wild cats around?
We just have we have two barn cats. They're not wild, but we do have a couple random cats show up here.
Yeah,
and
it's
there.
like they do their thing, right?
Yeah.
And then like, so we keep, I think we have like 3 kind of barn cats at the farm.
Yep.
And then they take care of the mice, and then you feed them in return, and
they
it's kind of
keep
like this exchange.
Yep.
The cat, did you see the cat inside our house?
Yep.
This is one of the most interesting little stories in life. So that was a wild cat.
Okay.
That was born or used to live in this barn. And then this is maybe 5 years ago. It started just like getting closer to humans. And then it just like social climbed its way to becoming a house cat. But she like basically runs the house. She can like go out whenever she wants, and she'll be gone for like 2-3 days, whatever. Come back. Well, then she got pregnant a few times, and one of the cats is now in Chicago. One of the kittens.
Okay.
Someone wanted a kitten, so then they went to Chicago, and it just, if you look at that family tree, that's one of the most impressive like social ladder climbing I've seen.
Just straight to Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, when your offspring then becomes a house cat in Chicago, that's a pretty sweet life.
Yeah.
That's a cushy life. Whereas she's still in the house, but she'll always
she gets to
be
circle.
going around.
Yeah, that's what we had that too growing up. Like we had the couple cats that were ours, and then all of a sudden one would just show up, and it was like, alrighty, well, you're here now. Like, and sometimes they'd disappear, and sometimes they'd come back, and
we used to tomcats are pretty bad as far as like we used to have a few, and then they'd be gone for like a week, and you're like, oh. But then he comes back and half his face is missing. You can see like
it's horrible.
Like you can see his teeth when it's like
turn this way, that way.
You can see the teeth because half his cheek is gone, his ear's missing. Like,
yeah, I can think, and it's funny because my husband, he didn't grow up around this at all, and so we actually had a female cat, and he's like, well, how's she gonna, how are we gonna have kittens? And I'm like, oh, they'll just show up.
She'll find a way.
You don't know yet, but they will. And all of a sudden we just watched this one cat walk through the yard, and he's like, is that what you're talking about? Yep. Don't know where he came from, don't know where he's going, but he's here and he'll be gone, and that's okay. But
man. Yeah, animals.
Yeah.
Living on the farm, very interesting life.
And kittens. And that was always the coolest thing, was when you had kittens, and then you'd go and find them and hold them, and then the mom would go and take them somewhere else.
Yeah.
And that was always funny too. Mom, the cats are gone again. Well, yeah, because you were bothering them. Leave them alone. Okay.
Yeah.
But those are little things you get to enjoy growing up.
Yeah. Well, thanks for stopping by and talking all things farm and rural and countryside with me.
Yeah, no
it's been
problem.
Good.
I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, thanks for helping me break in this barn studio as well.
Yes. I really enjoy it. I think it's great.
Yeah.